You might think you got retirement spending all figured out, but what if I told you that some of the things you believe could completely derail your plans and leave you scrambling when it's too late to fix them? Let's start with a common myth that seems harmless but could actually cost you a lot more than you expect. It's the idea that downsizing your home will automatically save you money. Sure, downsizing sounds great on paper, but what many people don't consider are the hidden costs. Things like unexpected renovations, pricey relocation expenses, and even higher property taxes in certain areas. So suddenly what seemed like an easy way to save money turns into a financial burden that you didn't anticipate. So while downsizing might reduce your mortgage or your maintenance costs, you may not save as much as you think, or save at all. For example, I had a client who downsized from a large family home worth about $700K to a $400K condo. And on the surface, seemed like a smart move. But after factoring in $50,000 of renovation, $10,000 for moving expenses, and higher property taxes in their new spot, they were surprised to find that they had barely saved anything. Another client moved from California to Texas to downsize and hoping to save on state income taxes. Now, here's the deal. They lived in their California home for the past 30 years, paying very low property taxes thanks to Prop 13, which caps the annual increases. But when they moved to Texas, where there's no state income tax, they were shocked to discover that Texas has some of the highest property taxes in the country. And their new property taxes were almost double what they had been paying in California. So yeah, sure, they saved on income taxes and downsized, but a lot of that savings was eaten away by property taxes and other hidden costs. But it's not just the financial costs you need to consider, there's also the emotional and social impact. So I've seen many of my clients move away from their kids and grandkids only to find themselves traveling back and forth frequently to see them. And that travel really adds up. Not just in terms of money, but also in time and energy, which, let's be honest, it gets harder as you age. Plus, starting over in a new state means losing that local support system, which can affect your quality of life more than you realize. There are kinds of costs that don't show up in the financial calculations, but they have a real impact on your day-to-day life. So before you make the decision to downsize or move, it's critical to look beyond the surface. Consider all potential costs, home upgrades, moving expenses, property taxes, and even the emotional cost of being far from loved ones. You do not want to downsize or relocate only to realize that you've saved very little or worse, ended up with higher expenses and a lower quality of life. But while downsizing can reveal unexpected costs, there's another common misconception that can lead you into trouble. It's the belief that you'll spend less in retirement than when you're working. That's because many people expect their spending to drop, but the reality is often very, very different. In those early years of retirement, spending can stay the same or even increase due to things like travel, hobbies, and new lifestyle pursuits. And then you add on rising healthcare costs to the mix, and then suddenly those early retirement years can feel more expensive than when you were working. The key isn't assuming you'll spend less. It's about actively managing your spending as your lifestyle changes. You see, many people experience what we call the retirement spending smile. So early on, spending is often high as you may, travel more, pick up new hobbies, enjoy the freedom you've worked so hard for. And then usually in the middle years, spending tends to dip as life slows down. But here's where the smile kicks in. Healthcare costs in the later years usually often rise because of health costs, pushing spending back up again. I had a client who planned to spend $80,000 per year in retirement, but found themselves spending closer to $100,000 in their first couple of years, with travel and hobbies accounting for much of that. And then later their spending stabilized, but then again, as healthcare needs increased later on, their spending started to increase again. And according to Fidelity, the average couple retiring today will need around $315,000 just for healthcare throughout retirement. That's a significant amount many people don't account for when planning. So instead of assuming your spending will drop, plan for these phases. Be realistic about the higher spending in the early years, and then prepare for the potential rise in healthcare costs later on. So the best approach is to create a spending plan that mirrors the retirement spending smile so you can maintain flexibility and adjust your priorities as they shift over time. Now, managing spending through different phases is key, but there's another area that can throw you off, and that's taxes. Many people believe that taxes will be lower in retirement because you're not earning a paycheck, you're not earning income, but that's another major lie that can lead to unexpected surprises. Because here's the reality, depending on how you manage your income sources and withdrawal strategies, you could actually end up paying higher taxes. This becomes especially true when required minimum distributions from your retirement accounts kick in, forcing you to take out more money than you may need and potentially pushing you into higher brackets, which means more of your retirement income dollars are going to pay taxes and less to you. So to avoid these tax surprises, it's critical to have a solid withdrawal strategy and plan for taxes well in advance. And one solution we often consider are Roth conversions. By converting part of your traditional IRA to a Roth IRA before you retire or during the early retirement years, you can pay taxes at potentially a lower rate now and avoid being forced into higher brackets later. So for example, if you convert $100,000 to a Roth over a few years, you might pay taxes now at 22% rather than later at 24% or even higher when required minimum distributions kick in. Plus, as an added benefit, Roth IRAs are not subject to RMDs, giving you more control over your taxable income. Another important thing to watch out for is the IRMAA surcharge. So if your income exceeds certain thresholds, you'll actually pay more for Medicare Part B and Part D. So for example, in 2022, if your modified adjusted gross income was over $194,000 for a couple, you could face additional monthly premiums on top of your standard Medicare costs. And this is why managing your income and withdrawals is so important. It's not just about staying in lower brackets. It's about avoiding unexpected surcharges like IRMAA that can eat into your retirement income. Also be mindful of your Social Security benefits and how they're taxed, because up to 85% of your Social Security income could be taxed depending on your total income. So again, managing withdrawals from taxable accounts is key to minimizing this impact. So here's the bottom line. Planning your withdrawal strategy ahead of time can help you avoid these tax traps and keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket. We've made lots of videos on this channel digging deeper into tax planning and withdrawal strategies, which you can always check out. But while taxes can certainly take a bigger bite out of your retirement income than expected, there's one fear that overshadows almost everything else, and that's running out of money. It's the question that keeps most people up at night. Will I have enough to last through retirement? And it's completely natural to worry about running out of money, especially with all the uncertainties that retirement can bring. But here is a surprising truth. Most people don't actually spend down to zero. What happens instead is that once people notice that their savings is dwindling or expenses are rising, they instinctively adjust their spending to avoid disaster. And it's that built-in survival instinct that kicks in before things get out of hand. Now, rather than panicking about running out of money, the key is to create a flexible spending plan that allows you to adjust when needed. One effective strategy to create income is called a guardrail system around your spending. For example, if you notice your portfolio balance drops by a certain percentage, you can adjust your discretionary spending like travel and dining out. That is until your investments recover. And this can help prevent you from drawing down your assets too quickly. Another important tool is to revisit your spending plan regularly. And I recommend sitting down at least once a year to, just do the basics, review your expenses, assess how your investments are performing, and make adjustments as necessary. That way you're always staying one step ahead of potential issues. Here's the point. You don't have to fear running out of money. With a flexible, adaptable plan, you can make adjustments along the way and avoid financial disaster at the same time. Now, while flexibility of your spending plan is key to avoid financial trouble, there's another common belief that can lead you astray, which is the idea that budgeting is the best way to protect your retirement. You see, budgeting gives you a general idea of where you stand, but the reality is that future expenses are completely unpredictable. Life in retirement is full of curveballs, unexpected medical expenses, new hobbies or family emergencies. And it's these unexpected costs that can easily throw off even the most carefully crafted budget, leaving you scrambling to adjust. Now, the best way I believe to project your retirement expenses isn't to try and predict every little cost. That's nearly impossible, right? Instead, focus on getting in the ballpark and giving yourself a buffer room for the unexpected. And a good strategy is to break your spending down into 4 categories: live, give, owe, grow. Live includes core living expenses like food, housing, utilities. Give refers to charitable giving or gifts to family. O covers taxes, debts, and other financial obligations. And then grow represents the portion of money that maybe you set aside. And in addition to this model, it's helpful to incorporate estimates of things in the future like car purchases or extra travel or potential medical expenses. But remember, these are just estimates. And it's important to give yourself a buffer in case actual costs end up being higher than you planned. The key is to build flexibility into each category so you can adapt as your needs change over time without worrying about running out of money. By now, you've seen how these common lies about retirement spending could easily derail your plan, but more importantly, you've learned the truth. And honestly, that gives you the power to make smarter decisions, avoid costly mistakes, and feel confident about your future. And now that you know how to avoid the biggest retirement spending lies, it's time to make sure you're calculating your retirement expenses the right way. In this next video, my business partner, Anthony, will show you a simple yet powerful way to estimate your retirement spending using that live, give, owe, grow model we touched on today. If you want to avoid common mistakes and create a retirement plan that actually works, click here to watch that video.